Second Corinthians 3, 1 and 2 says, are we beginning to praise ourselves again? Are we like others who need to bring you letters of recommendation or who ask you to write such letters on their behalf? Surely not. The only letter of recommendation we need is you yourselves. Your lives are a letter written in our hearts. Everyone can read it and recognize our good work among you. And today, I'm grateful for life, health, and strength. I'm grateful for my wife, my children. Um, Grateful for each and every one of you. Um, Grateful for there's so many things to be grateful for, man. I mean, grateful God brought me back home safe. Just grateful for everything, every little thing that I could see and the things that I can't. I'm grateful for. Um, this particular part of the scripture, I wanted to share it because it's such an important message from the Apostle Paul. It's a scripture that I've read before and I've shared before in this group, but reading it over again, it was just such a good reminder of the role that we play as Christians, right? And how we recognize how do we recognize the fruit of the same tree? Basically, the Apostle Paul was telling them that, like, hey, um, I don't come to y'all like saying that, or there's a letter from another church saying that I'm a Christian, you know, or this is some recommendation I walk with, like this is some badge of honor that I carry. Like I'm a priest, I'm a prophet, I'm a this, I'm a that. You know what I'm saying? He basically telling them that who you are as a person is what makes me a Christian. The impact that I've put on your lives when I taught you about the word of Christ is what was impactful in your life. This is what matters. This is what really is supposed to be a reflection of true Christianity. Not the title that you carry, but the impact that you make. And I'm not here to bash anyone. I'm really not. You know, I just go in by the scripture, and it's so true. A lot of times in our society, you witness persons walk around with a badge of honor as though they holier than thou or they mightier than thou, you know, but then they live in sin, or they project in sin, or they promote in sin. But then they still walking around with a letter of recommendation from someone saying that they holier than thou or that they more Christian than thou. In this particular part of the scripture, the Apostle Paul is just telling you that no, it doesn't work that way. If you really want to tell a Christian, tell a Christian by who they impact. Tell a Christian by what they do. Tell a Christian by their Christ-like life. You understand? So to me, this part of the scripture was just a strong reminder of it, you know? And what he says is that he says that your lives are written in our hearts so that everyone can read it and recognize our good work among you. And basically what he's saying too is that, like, not only will people recognize you by the fruit, and the fruit, they'll recognize you by the fruit of the same tree. Like you ain't gonna walk up to a mango tree and expect to pick a grapefruit. You ain't gonna walk up to a grapefruit tree and expect to pick a coconut. You understand? We know our people by their impact. You understand? And like, I'm not here to bash anybody because I've seen recently in the news in the Bahamas, we had this whole thing where we have these church leaders who is like blasting these people from the LGBTQ whatever community, right? And I mean, they were publicly blasting them, going out there trying to stop these people in their marches and all that. And you know what? I get it. You against sin. But I need that same energy when you go after those deacons who molesting children. I need that same energy when you go after the persons who out here blaspheming God. I need you with that same energy against the murderers, against the killers, against the robbers, against the thieves. Don't just be selective with who you blast with your sin. Blast everyone. Don't pick and choose from which tree you can eat from because guess what? Us as Christians is only one tree. It's the tree of life. God was very, very specific with that when he put that in the center. Remember, he put the tree of life at the center in the first book of the Bible. When he described man and woman, he put the tree of life in the middle there. And he gave us a description to show us how important it is for a tree for us to understand because we need to know our fruit. We need to know our people. And when we don't recognize that tree, we don't need to be picking off that fruit. But anyway, I could sit here and run on with this for hours, but I won't. I thank you all for just listening to me, you know, and I'm glad that each one of you are here because I know that all of us are picking from the same tree. I'm Gary, and I pass the mic over to my brother Terry.